We're going to talk about hurricanes. Nobody really loves hurricanes. They cause a lot of devastation, but they are just part of this world. And in this video, worst case scenario, this could save you significant headache in terms if a hurricane is coming. And best case scenario, it could potentially save your life. And so we're going to talk about some of the preparation that's needed, some of the things that need to be done at the time of the hurricane, etc., so that you are very well prepared. Now, I've lived here in Southwest Florida since 2006, and I have seen my fair share of storms, of hurricanes, of flooding in that time frame. And we have some of the major ones that we've gone through were Hurricane Irma, which that came through in 2017. And then we also dealt with in 2022 Hurricane Ian, which was the major blow, especially in the Fort Myers area. And so we've also seen a lot of different storms that just didn't have very much effect. And so we just have to sort of understand how we prepare and what we need to do. So the biggest thing is that hurricanes are different than a lot of other natural disasters in that they give us a lot of warning. With the technology these days, we understand when a storm is developing off the coast of Africa, and then we start to see the spaghetti models of it heading this way. Now, the reality is that the more preparation that you do ahead of time, the better that you'll be able to deal with that potential hurricane when it comes. So we're talking about shopping in advance. We need to do that because if you wait until there's an imminent storm, the gas stations are going to be out of gas, the stores are going to be out of water, generators, all of those types of things, they just get bought out and there's not much you can do if the storm is already here. So I would ask you to take a proactive approach to any kind of storm preparation. And the advantage of this is that yes, we get that advance warning, whereas other areas, like everybody has their natural issues, right? So whether it's wildfires or earthquakes or tornadoes that pop up, hurricanes are the thing that we get time to prepare, and it's not just comes on us real quick and we've got to scramble. So here's the deal. The spaghetti plot, that can be a little off. That can be a little wrong. We've seen that happen. And so if you're within that cone of uncertainty, as they call it, it's a good idea to start taking these proactive steps. And so we should already have water. The recommendation is that you have 1 gallon of water per day per person for up to 3 days. That's what they say to plan for. It's also a good idea to have flashlights. It's a good idea to have extra batteries. And in the regard for batteries, it's a really good idea to have the battery packs so for your cell phone so you can recharge that. It's also a really good idea to have at least a few 5-gallon containers of gasoline if you have a gasoline vehicle or a gasoline generator. And then there are some things that we found out through Hurricane Ian that were incredibly popular based on what we were doing to help out people in the local area. So if you have a chainsaw, that's a good idea because a lot of times the storms with all the wind can cause some tree issues. Also, gloves are really important so that if you do have any cleanup, that your hands are protected from that perspective. Masks are also a really good idea to have on hand. And there's a full list. I mean, we can give you a link to that in the description below that you can say all of those. I'm not going to go through every single item that you should have, but that does cover the basis. And obviously, you should have any medications, general food items to be able to sustain for a little while. These are the types of things that you want, and just kind of comfort things, a fan if the a battery powered fan if the electricity goes out, and a two-way radio. That's a great idea to be able to communicate to people who are nearby if you do indeed lose power. Now, here's the thing when it comes to storms. So the homes here in Florida, if they're recently built, they're generally up to amazing hurricane code. So they're sort of built like a fortress. They're built in a way that is sort of like a bomb shelter where you have concrete block walls, hurricane straps on the roof, and you have some type of storm protection for all of your windows, doors, etc. If it's an older home, it may not have all of those protections, and so you just have to understand what you're working with in that regard. Now, location is extremely important. And we learned this especially during Hurricane Ian. If you looked at the devastation, the path of devastation, it was the coastline was what got hit the hardest. So right on Fort Myers Beach and a few miles inshore, those were the hardest hit areas. Now, the wind certainly affected a much bigger area, but the drastic problems happened with 15, 16 feet of storm surge. The homes are really built well for wind, but if you have a home that's not built up, flood could be a real potential issue there, and that's where the dangers, the life dangers really come into play. So we have something in Florida, it's called different evacuation zones, and so basically the coastal areas are going to be evacuated first by the state of Florida, and then they kind of come inland depending on the severity of the storm and the direction that it is headed. Now, I saw some really devastating stories during Hurricane Ian where there are a lot of people who are on the coast who did not heed the warnings to leave. Now, there's a lot of, we'll call them old timers, Florida old timers who've been here for a very long time, and they see that the media can blow things out of proportion. They've seen it time and time again, and quite frankly, during one of the bigger hurricanes, Irma, they called for 18 feet of storm surge, and we never saw it. We just saw a couple feet. And so when Hurricane Ian rolled around, there were some people who just said, I don't believe in that, I'm not going to do it. And Hurricane Ian packed a significant punch, and there was unfortunately a lot of people who lost their lives by that decision of staying. And so I beg you, I plead you that if you are in an evacuation zone, take that very seriously. Now, if you're not right on the coast and you're a few miles in, then you may make a decision to stay. And if you stay, well, no matter what, you want to make sure that if you have hurricane shutters, you're going to be taking care to, lock in the residents as much as possible. You're going to want to make sure that if you have anything that's loose, like chairs or flower pots or anything outside, that you're going to want to bring those types of things in, because those can turn into missiles, as they call it, a windborne missile, and we don't want any of that kind of a situation. But if you are inland and you are deciding that you are going to stay, just make sure that you have all the items that we had talked about and that you've got a plan. The more that you can plan in advance for a storm to come through, the better that you are going to be. My family and I in 2017, we decided sort of last minute that we were going to leave when Hurricane Irma was approaching. And so we did. The challenge there is that everybody was making that decision right at that minute, and so traffic on the highways that was really bad, and so gas stations didn't have a lot of gas, and so you just have to make these decisions earlier. Learn from my lesson here that we're gonna, if a storm comes, we're gonna stay unless it's X. Some people say, hey, I'm going to stay if it's up to a category 3. If it's a 4 or 5, I'm going to leave. Or somebody may say, if it's a category 5, I'll leave. Category 4, I'm staying. Somebody may say, I'm staying no matter what. That's up to you. But again, just make the decision for safety. I mean, that's the most important thing. And if you're in an evacuation zone, then don't override the decision of what the state is telling you that you should do. They call it a mandatory evacuation for a reason. Another huge tip that actually should happen in advance is that we saw a lot of scenarios for insurance where people didn't document the items in their home. So let's say that a home had flooded with some of the storm surge. You're going to want to make sure that you document the items in your home prior to any kind of damage. And so a great idea is to just take a video. You can do it on your cell phone as long as it's backed up to the cloud, where you go around and you show the inside of your home. That will come in very handy if you have any kind of issues with the storm, that you can supply that to the insurance adjuster and say, hey, here's what I lost, because otherwise there's no records of all those items. And so that would just make your life a lot easier if you do that. Now, again, even though we have a lot of time to prepare, storms, especially hurricanes, are no joke. We don't want to mess around with them. So do me a favor, keep reading, keep doing the research, but make sure that you are very well prepared. And then the next time, because it happens, it's just part of being in a tropical environment, the next time a storm comes through, then you will be as prepared as possible. As always, thank you so much for watching. Please make sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and have a blessed day. Thank you.